Hey everybody, I'm Heidelin with Austin Entertainment Management, back here with my friend Joe Welch of who is the Will Fairy. She's amazing, you guys. She has such a fun way to talk about things that are not fun.
I'm so glad you said it that way because that is definitely one of the keys to me is, we look at, well, in case you know what? I don't have to say in case. I know you absolutely caught the last episode of this where we started to talk about our will, but in case you didn't, Will Fairy Challenge, the Will Fairy, what on earth does all that mean? Just a little recap is that as we are going through life, especially as musicians and artists and people who are out there working day to day, lost in the mire of billing and paying people and try to drive and hopefully the car didn't break down, how do you take a minute out of your life to do something like put your will together, as well as people don't want to talk about it, right? Like we're afraid, we're hesitant, but the reality is that we have to be prepared just like you would be for anything else, right? Heidi did admit she doesn't have a will either. I totally understand, but that's going to change because she is going to be coming to my next Will Fairy Challenge. And so just a little plug, willfairychallenge.com is going to take you to a free 2-day Will Fairy Challenge. All that's going to do is going to go more in depth into these issues that we're talking about today and start to get your mind thinking and percolating about what it means to put your will together. Another thing that we covered was that it can be affordably done. So we are, of course, going to always talk about options for that. And lastly, we wanted to talk today about 5 people who died without their will.
Not just
So
people,
not
not
just
just
people,
people, very special people, the musical kind of people.
the musical kind of people. And so what I'll do is, especially if you're watching this, whether live or on replay, put into the chat right now some, maybe you know some of those names. Like go ahead and just put those names. Do you know anybody who died without a will? And that word is intestate, which means that they did not have a will. Caveat: I am not an attorney. I am not a lawyer. I am not dispensing any kind of legal advice. All I'm doing is bringing the stories together and having a one-stop shop so that people could kind of understand what's going on and also know that they are in safe hands to be able to take that next step. All
I
right.
know what
So
she is.
Heidi,
She is the lawyer's fairy godmother because lawyers do not have time to sit and explain all this to you. And when they do, they charge you a whole lot of money to do it.
yeah.
So Joe really, really is like your fairy godmother with this because she's going to come in and save you a lot of time, save you a lot of dollars. And so that's why we're here today because we want to
That's
talk
right.
all about this. So I need to know what musicians died without a will.
All right. So you take a guess. Can you guess? Because we've had a lot of fairy. We're gonna go in the famous people realm for sure. If anybody came to mind to you, who would you wonder if they died with or without a will?
Okay, well, there's one that I can think of because like it was super sudden and huge fan of Nirvana. So Kurt Cobain, like I
Kurt
can't
Cobain.
imagine with his story that he even thought about any of it.
Right. And I think it's a great point. So yes, you are correct. Kurt Cobain did die without a will. And so there's so many aspects to this. One is, and I think this is a great point, is even as fans, right, that the tragedy is very great and the loss is so great. And so just thinking about, when people think they have value or don't have, or whatever that is, we are building these communities in this, I love the word ecosystem. We're building these ecosystems, right? So the fan base and the people who are depending on you, your band, all that. And, it was already a tragedy, but unfortunately he didn't have a will. And as a result, his family, his wife, his children, his daughter, I'm just checking my notes over here, had to not get the estate settled until the estate was settled, right? So there wasn't this immediacy. That's one important thing about the will, is that, and this is, a will does not address all the issues, right? Maybe you have life insurance, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a trust, maybe you don't. There's so many aspects to how we protect ourselves over our lives. And I will add here, and I don't know if I'm out of time, but hashtag adulting. There are a lot of things we need to put into place to make sure that we're protecting not only ourselves, but our families. And depending on how old you are, I'm actually going to say also your parents. Do they have a will? Right? Right now, we're about to see a transfer of wealth from boomers, baby boomers, into Gen X and on, because that is the generation that had a lot of property, comparatively. They had homes and they had a lot of things, estates in various ways. And the next generations are not equipped for it, right? So if there's no will, you're the one who's going to be taking care of it. You're the one who's going to have to be sorting through it. So let's get a couple more musicians so we can just think a little bit bigger picture here.
I don't know. Like, I feel like really any of the artists where like their lives were cut short.
Right. You're right on. So I'm just going to go through the list that I have here. So we're going to start with Jimi Hendrix. I think he is a very common name. And so I got just a couple little details that he died in 1970, but his estate wasn't settled until 73.
Oh,
Right. Bob Marley died in 81 without a will, and then eventually his estate was distributed between his wife and 11 children. Right? Prince died.
Prince?
Yeah, and he died without a will. And
Man, Prince seemed like he had like everything together, man.
And his estate is still currently being handled by a court appointed person, and it's estimated to $200 million. So let's just talk. Okay, I'm not worth $200 million, right? But if we look at any amount of money, even if there's no money or property, like if there's very little, maybe it's custody or, a life insurance or something, whatever it is, a car, from that $200 million for Prince's family, which, by the way, all the names that we're mentioning, we say with so much respect and loss. And we're hoping that people can see this story and say, oh, I wouldn't want to put my family, my friends, my fans into that same position. At least a third of it will go into fees, will go into probate, will go into paying lawyers, will go into paying a lot of things, including, and that might be you in that position of having to be the person who's now full-time job it is to sort through, Prince's junk drawer, like opening the drawer and finding all the bills. Like, I have no idea, especially if they're older, like if you're not very technologically savvy, you might have a box full of receipts, for goodness sakes, and a lot of things unsettled. So, and then the last person is Amy Winehouse, also died intestate. That's the word for meaning without a will. And there are many more. And again, it comes not only out of the suddenness, because we don't know if tomorrow's promised, but also I really do feel like no one sat down with them like we're doing right now to say, hey, we should really think about this. We should maybe look at it in a different way, look at it in a different light and say, you have value. Even though I know you're hustling and you're working so hard and driving everywhere and everything smells like old socks in your car, and you have, the last time you took like a really good shower because the Motel 6 was, the water pressure wasn't that high. Like, I get it. And so that's where I bring my magic and say, why don't we have some fun about this? Why don't we take some of the questions out of it, and let's just get even the simplest will done with an expert, with an attorney, so that you don't have to worry about this anymore, and neither does your family.
When I hear you talk, like, I feel like this all is kind of like that money mindset that we're not really taught, and it's something that we've got to practice. It falls into that adulting category.
Yeah, so it's heavy. I wanted to say that we should probably unpack what money mindset is a little bit, and you'll hear about money mindset in our next clip. So see you guys next week. Before we go, money mindset is How did you grow up thinking about money, and how do you think about yourself in terms of value? Did you want to add to that, Heidi?
Well, I was just going to say that through the Will Ferry Challenge, you are going to be talking a bit about that money mindset so that you can shift some of these beliefs that you have and get into action, which you know is my song.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So we're going to wrap this up, this conversation right now. Um, but check in again. We're going to have one more segment with Joe and talk a little bit more about this. If you're seeing this and it's before the 19th, sign up for the Will Ferry Challenge, man. Like, get this out of the way, get working at it, get some accountability to adulting, get some tips, and get through this. And it'll be done. It'll be awesome.
We got you.
We got you. All right. I'm Heidi Lynn with Austin Entertainment Management. We'll see you guys next time.